Josh, thank you again for joining me today. We're going to go beyond the basics and really dig into folks who are looking to move beyond those AI pilots and get into the real-time AI for decision making and for long-term forecasting. So if you are ready, let's dive in. How can financial firms scale from those initial AI pilot programs to getting it really ready for an enterprise-wide adoption?
Well, I think you have to look at it from two different perspectives. One is that you might have a use case that you want to scale to enterprise-wide usage, and have one chatbot or another capability you're using across the entire firm. But even better is that you're scaling your infrastructure and your approach to have many more domains that are individually impacted with your approach as well. So those pilot projects should maybe start small and continue to be measured and tracked and iterated and matured in their own way, kind of like we rolled out microservices back in the day, but then multiply the number of single purpose models and solutions that you have throughout your firm. So that if something does go wrong, you're not actually impacting the whole firm, you're impacting one domain, and you can more quickly train new people or put the right integrations in place to keep the threat or the risk vector smaller.
All right, well, talking about risks and not impacting the entire organization, what are some of the biggest AI related risks that financial firms are facing, and how can they mitigate those?
I think the coupling to one capability and making sure that you're using it for everything, that is the risk that if that went away, or if you had to do another major revision, that your business operations might stop if you were to replace that capability or need a new version. So again, mitigating that risk is having, thinking from a domain perspective. You already have 10 to 20,000 applications in your firm and many more components within them. You want to make sure that you have smaller AI capabilities that are really enhancing your applications and your people throughout the firm, and really infusing the domain specific knowledge in your environment. And of course, feeding those better data, continuing to iterate on both the prompts that you might give them, or the knowledge you're infusing, or the reasoning capabilities you're giving those models, and the integrations you have around each one of those. I believe that's the best way to mitigate that risk.
All right, talking about the capabilities you just mentioned, when we look at the vast number of different capabilities that are needed to service end customers, how can folks really benefit from AI and enhancing that customer experience?
Well, the trend we see in financial services, and this is like a really big value point, and we've seen it before generative AI came out, is that if you're serving millions of customers, you've historically focused on systems of scale where everyone is able to kind of repeat the same thing or follow the same guidance. But the complaint of the end customers has been that um, the experience is not personalized, that everything is a script or it's the same response to everything. We see that as individuals when we talk to insurance companies that um, or otherwise, we want to make sure that people understand the context that we have. In artificial intelligence and generative AI is really good at taking in that context and being able to find better responses that are more personalized, or as we get to agentic, even respond to those more automatically in a much more efficient way.
Josh, let's get to our next question, which is key differences between AI in real time decision making and AI in long term financial forecasting. What are the differences?
I think those are very similar in nature. I think the infrastructure that you have under them and the cost models are very different. So when you're doing real-time decision making, you need to make sure that you have access to the latest data in memory, in caches, and that the throughput of the models that you're basically making these requests through are able to answer with somewhat low latency. When you're doing more of the long-term financial forecasting, in the financial world, that's more of a batch job, and you can scale out the infrastructure or even do these computations when your markets aren't active or your customers aren't pinging your call centers. So that's the type of job, the long-term decision makings, or things that you might run while during the night, and reuse those same GPUs that you'd be using during the um, during the real-time decisioning instead when they're not active.
Okay. So talking about leveraging when to use those GPUs, that comes back to cost, which comes back to ROI, which is always tough to find.
Mhm.
So walk me through how firms should and could measure their ROI for implementing AI.
I think that's top of mind for everyone, especially right now. So we've basically made this push from using AI in their firm, being able to do enterprise AI, where you really have control of the full stack. We've had lots of usage of the services that are provided by OpenAI and AWS and otherwise, but you're paying per token that you give it, and you're only paying when you use it. But still, renting is more expensive than buying potentially, and you reduce some of the control that you have. So, financial firms are being smart about where they deploy things quickly to cloud, but the things that you're going to basically keep hot that are always going to be running. You want to, if you're making a capital expenditure on a GPU. These things are very expensive, and you're buying them in a mass scale at a time. Maybe you're starting with 10, but if you're running 1,000, you want to keep those active at all times to make sure it kind of like living in your house at all times, or in making sure that you're doing the maintenance on your yard and fixing things when things go wrong as well. So basically, you just want to make sure that your larger capital expenditure is always under use. And just like that last question you asked, you're keeping the active with real-time responses probably during the day or during active market times. And then when they're powered down, you're able to repurpose that very same infrastructure to do things that would keep them active when they would otherwise be inactive. Or otherwise, we've seen a lot of demand from customers to basically have a set of on-prem that's actually running at a better ROI, and always active, but you're growing that at a slower pace, and then being able to consistently deploy your same infrastructure and applications on public cloud as well.
Gotcha. Well, thank you, Josh. We are at time. Thank you all for joining us today. We have an entire series of videos, so keep your eyes and ears open. We've got Mythbusters, we've got an intro course, and we're going to dive even deeper. So, Josh, thank you again for joining me. We look forward to seeing everybody next time.
Thank you.